Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you something near and dear to my heart today. It's Lego Spider-Man, so let's do this. All right, starting with our blue. We are going to make his body first. You're going to roll it out. I want to say it's about 1/2 inch thick. I use those wooden dowels in order to keep my measurements nice and even. And I'm going to start with a rectangle first. I don't know the actual measurements of it. You make it whatever size you want. Well, geez, I don't know, maybe about 2 by 2 or so. That would be a square, not a rectangle, though. All right. And I'm going to do the torso first. And the bodies on the Lego figures taper inward at the top, so that's why you saw there I cut those corners off. And when you get a nice size, you are going to ram it through on a lollipop stick. I get the 8-inch lollipop sticks. You can find them at any craft store. Walmart even has them. So they're readily available. They're easy to come by. All right, so make sure you push it out even on the stick and then just put it aside. And now we're going to cut out his legs. So we're doing the same thickness as before. And just cut off a flat edge so you can line it up. And I held it up to mark it off just so you can see how wide to make the legs. So once you get the width there, just cut off a wedge. Make sure you leave it a little bit longer just in case you want to cut it off. And if you have it measured up to a good size, it looks good to you, then go ahead and start doing what I'm doing here. I'm using the back or the stick part of my paintbrush and I'm pressing indentations. I'm doing the 3 sides around the top to make his waist and then the one at the bottom to show his feet. And using the back of my blade, I'm putting a little like rectangle where, let's say, the zipper part of your pants would be, just because they have that kind of like bend there, you know, and then the seam straight down the legs for the legs to show the legs. All right, and flip it over and do kind of the same thing on the back. I'm going to do the waist indentation. The feet don't need anything, and all you need is the one line on the back just to show where the legs are. Once you have that all done, we're going to attach them. So using a little bit of water with my paintbrush, just shove that lollipop stick right on through. You can see when you press down into it, it kind of makes an indentation. It loses its sharp edge. So you're going to have to work it back together. Press it down. I'm using my thumb. I'm using the stick, the handle on my paintbrush to push it up. And there you go. So you put it back together. Now I can see that the body is a little bit too long compared to the legs, so I'm just trimming off the top a little bit. Lego figures, their torso is shorter than their legs, so make sure you keep that in mind. Maybe about 3/4 of the size of the legs, I'd say. All right, it's now standing in a styrofoam block, and I'm going to make his arms. I am just rolling out more blue, and you'd think like, oh, Spider-Man, you know, he's a lot of red. Actually, he's a lot of blue, so the Lego guy is anyway. So I am rolling out more blue. I'm going to have it kind of taper. Make sure you leave it rounded at the top because the Lego figure arms are thinner at the top and they kind of flare out at the bottom like they got a 70s thing going. So that's where that effect is coming from. And they also have a little bit of a bend to them. The wrists, you want to make them come down to about the waist. So yeah, that would be about the length of the arm. When you're ready to put the little bit of a bend in it, just bend it in half right in the middle. You can see I used, once again, my good old trusty paintbrush. And that will give you a pretty good bend to it. They're not perfectly straight. The arms are kind of permanently fixed in that slightly bent position. And when you press it on, you're going to see it straightens out a little bit, so that's okay. But as long as that indentation is there, then we're good. And since we made one arm so wonderfully, we're just going to copy it and do it on the other side. I'm holding it up just to make sure I got the same length because that would look weird otherwise. And you're going to do the bend in it just like you did on the other one. Once again, making sure it matches up nicely. A little bit of water on the other side and press it into place. And don't worry about pressing it a little bit more flat into the top either because that's how it works. So that's what you want to do. All right, put it aside. Once again, we're going to do red now. I'm going to make his head. I'm making his head now, and then I'm going to put it aside. We're not going to attach it to his body because it needs to firm up a little bit. If you attach it when it's still pretty soft, it's going to sag, and because you're going to put a little neck on it, it just won't look right. So you're going to roll out a nice cylinder. Try really hard to keep it round on the top and bottom. a little trick I kind of learned here is if you press down against the table with it, against, that bottom part that you want to keep round, and roll it between your hands like I was doing, it helps a lot. It helps keep the end of it pretty sharp too. So that's what I'm doing once again here, trying to pinch off the edge, make a nice cleaner edge, make it nice and sharp, and then make it the length you want. He doesn't need a giant sausage head, he needs a little Lego head. So just keep working it, roll it with your fondant spreader, however you need to do, and then, every so often check out the size, compare it to the body until you get a size that looks pretty good. Their heads are actually kind of on the smaller side, but I usually make them a little bigger just to kind of exaggerate them a bit. It just looks a little better for some reason, I guess, with the decorations. So once you get the side you like I said, just put it off and let it harden for a while. Now we're going to do his decorations. I don't know what you call it, his bodysuit part on his clothes, the red part on his clothes. So I rolled it out real thin, some red, real thin, just lay it on top, and I'm using my knife blade to kind of feel for the edge of the body. And I'm basically marking it off to use it as a template. And you have that shape there. You're going to make two of these things. One is going to go on the front. One is going to go on the back. The one on the back is more narrow at the top than the one on the front. So what happened here is I thought I was making the one on the front, but I ended up trimming off a little too much. So it ended up on the back, which you'll see soon. But okay, once you get this shape going, you're going to cut that little wedge, like you can see right there. Just not even halfway. So I guess maybe, a third on either side is cut and leave the third in the center straight. And then going straight down from the top, you're going to go about halfway between the initial cut and the top. Once you get that spot done, you're going to connect the dots, basically. Go from the one end of the one cut to the one end of the other. So you end up cutting out two little triangles like you saw there. There was one and then there was two. So let's see it again. I'll explain it again. There's the one, big one right there, and the little one that stuck to it and pulled off so you can really see it. All right, so anyway, there you go. When you place it on the front, you can see how it kind of lines up. It's going to match up to the bottom. It goes across his waist at the bottom, and then it kind of goes up to the top. And like I said, that was a little too skinny, so I ended up sticking on the back, which was fine. That's okay. So this one, I did it. You got to make two, like I said. So this one I was much more careful with, and I left it wider. So this one became the front. You're going to cut it exactly the same way. You're going to do about a third on each end at the bottom, straight down from the shoulders at the top. And then you're going to cut inward about halfway between, your third cut. Yeah, this was a little off, so I had to take a little more of a nip out. So then you're going to cut about halfway between the top and the bottom. You see that right there? So you get that kind of a, I don't know, funky letter T kind of look to it. Sort of thing. Yeah, okay. And once you get it all cut out, lay it on. There you go. And as you can see, this time it actually comes to each shoulder at the top, which is what it's supposed to do. So that's a good thing. All right, on the back, it's narrower, so that's fine. See, it's much more narrow on the back and wider on the front. Thanks for showing me, May. Oh, you're welcome, May. All right, back to the head. We put the head aside for a little while, remember? Now we're going to make the eyes. You want them pretty big and exaggerated once again. This is the Lego character, and Spider-Man doesn't have a lot going on in the Lego figure, so they gave him really big eyes. I'm using a circle that I matched up and I felt like was a good size. I made two circles, I cut them out. I didn't cut them in half, I cut them maybe like a third off the top, so leave the black a little bit bigger. The white, I'm using the same size circle, and I make one circle. And as you can see, I cut it just short of halfway. So there was a little strip in the middle that I pulled out, so it's a little bit smaller. And it'll have a black outline. When you put them on top of each other, as you can see now, it has a little black outline. When you place them on his head, you're going to place it so that those little points kind of meet toward the center. They do not touch, okay? So don't have them touching in the center. These aren't glasses or anything that he's wearing. There has to be that little bit of a hole in the middle. So once again, water, press it into place, put your mask off to the side. This is going to be his neck. It's the same size circle as the eyes that I used. And you just make a red circle and shove it on down and flatten it out onto the stick on top. Paint a little bit of water and make sure you trim off your lollipop stick so it's not ridiculous. And then press it on in. If your head got too hard, you could see I kind of hollowed out a little hole there before I pressed it on. Use your X-Acto knife or whatever knife you have to hollow it out. If you shove it onto the stick when it's too hard, you're going to crack it because it just will expand and it has no room and you'll end up cracking it and then you have to start over and it's very disheartening. That was his hand as I talked through it. It was basically a tic-tac shape or size. You roll it out, curve it like the letter C, and attach it to his little arm with water. And there you go. You've got a hand for a Lego guy. The hands on Spider-Man are red. So there is a little bit more red coming through here. And this is actually pretty much it. We're going to add the little Lego bit to the top of his head now, but otherwise it's just a lot of the black food coloring marker. Okay, this is the same size circle as before. Cut out the circle, and I used a straw that I got from Dunkin' Donuts, made it hollow in the center, and then plop that sucker on top to give it that Lego look. I don't know what you call that whole thing, connector part at the top. Okay, black edible food coloring marker time. I am making his stripes on his shirt, I guess you'd call it. Pretty much they taper in at the top and flare out at the bottom, so just start making lines. Make him as straight as you can. You want to fill him in pretty well. He doesn't have a lot of space in between, but it does get wider at the bottom, as you can see. Once you get your lines in place, start making little birds flying in the sky, basically. You're going to make little curves. They curve up toward his head, and you just keep going until you fill it in. Then you're going to draw the logo on his chest, make a small ball, and then make an oval underneath of it. You see? Just like that. And then two legs they all come out of the center between the two spots where they meet. Two go up, two go down. That's it. It's not hard. Okay, then we're going to do his head. Only the front of his head is decorated on the Lego figure. It doesn't go all the way around. Start with the one going straight down the middle and have one coming out each side by his eyes. You can see a short one coming out there, kind of in the middle of his eye toward the side. And then you're going to do another one coming down to the side, and then I'm going to match it on the other side, that one coming out with the eye, and then the one in the middle. You can do it any order you want, but as long as you have about, how many is there, 8, then you're good. And like I said before, don't connect the eyes in the center. You're going to kind of connect all the webbing in the middle, kind of like where his nose would be. And it's the same idea as before. The curves that you make are all curving toward the center of his face. So where his mouth would be, they curve up. On his forehead and everything, it curves down. You see how I'm doing that? Okay, and you fill it in. If you reach the top, it just cuts off. So you don't do on the top and the bottom. All right, and there he is. Hopefully you like this. Check out my other videos. Please like and subscribe. I will catch you all next time. Bye-bye.